Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dieselpunk Wars. I am one of the developers, and today I'll be first of all checking if the stream is fine, which is why you had a cut in the music for a second there. But most importantly, I'll show you what's so awesome about Dieselpunk Wars, and more importantly, tell you the reason why there is a live stream here today in the first place, and that is because we are officially leaving early access. We started early access of Dieselpunk Wars about half a year ago, more or less. The game was in many aspects finished, of course. It did have a campaign and a bunch of play modes, and it was fun, although a bit buggy, admittedly. However, now we are leaving it behind us. We have a new game mode, that being the Endless mode, many fixes and many improvements that our community asked us to implement. So basically, what you're seeing right now is the work of not only us the developers, but more importantly of the community that helped us reach this point, not only through the Kickstarter campaign, but also thanks to enormous, and I do mean enormous, amount of feedback that you have been giving us thus far. We are all at the studio very grateful for all of your feedback, and we hope that our release version is going to be most satisfactory to you. Now, of course, there are many of you who are joining this live stream right now who might be a little bit unsure as to what this game is in the first place, what is Dieselpunk Wars all about. Allow me to answer that question for you. Dieselpunk Wars is a vehicle building game where you get a massive, or small, up to you, vehicles that are completely modular. This game has an advanced physics engine, and it is focused on, well, as you might expect, destruction. And it does have a very advanced physics engine to go along with it. So, for instance, you literally can cut enemy vehicles in half, and if one of the halves is healthy enough, you might still be fighting against, well, just half of an enemy vehicle. So there's a lot going on here under the hood. Every shot, every missile, projectile, everything is calculated in real time to make sure that every bullet ricochets, or rather has a chance to ricochet, when it impacts an armor under a certain angle. So there's a lot going on in this game, and I do hope that it will be up to your liking if you are a newcomer. Of course, I'm just talking right now. I'll just quickly show you something about the game, really quickly, and then I'll get on with talking about what we have added thus far into the game, and talking about what led us to this point, what are the new features, how to use the new features, and all of that good stuff, of course. So, here we are in Dieselpunk Wars. I have entered a creative mode, which is just another name for a sandbox mode. In this mode I can do literally anything I want. As you can see, I started with a small little vehicle, and I'm just driving around in it. I could fire my gun and do other things. More importantly, I could also create a new vehicle by quickly modifying the one I have. For instance, I could just add a gun at the front, because why not? I could add 3 guns if I so desired. And now my vehicle wouldn't drive very well because it's very front heavy, but I'll teach you how to play the game and how to account for the weight and other things. But hey, if the enemy was standing right here, they would be toast. Of course, this might not look very impressive right now, because this isn't the biggest vehicle or the greatest thing you've ever seen just yet. So allow me to change that for you. Let's, for example, load one of the all-time favorites, the sea monster vehicle, and allow me then to quickly spawn a few additional vehicles. In creative modes, it's very simple. All I have to do is just, after loading my vehicle, then quickly press on the F2 button, and an enemy will spawn nearby. And as you can see, a battle is going to ensue very shortly, and I'll just keep pressing the F2 button and have more enemies spawn. And I pray that the enemy is not going to bombard me with too many bombs and missiles before I can showcase it to you. So as you can see, just by pressing a few buttons, I have started the battle. Some of my turrets fire automatically, while others await my command, and as you can see, a large chunk of my vehicle has now been destroyed, now even bigger part. Now I'm just driving in what is the front of the vehicle, and soon even that will be lost as the enemy forces are just overwhelming me. But this is a very quick version of what this game is about, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about what you can see in the game and the different game modes, and then I'll give you a proper preview. Allow me just quickly to check if the stream is working all right. Is my microphone being picked up? Yes, it does appear so. At the moment, it seems like there are no issues. Of course, I do have to make sure that everything is going fine, but my coworkers also would have let me know had there anything been wrong, so I trust in them and I trust in you. And by the way, it might be at times difficult for me to see if anybody posted anything in the chat. We are currently live streaming to YouTube, Twitch and Steam at the same time. However, I do have a chat window open on the side. I might not necessarily see it right off the bat, and there might be a little bit of a delay, but if you have anything you want to say or anything you want to ask me about, please go ahead and just do that, and I'll ask you a question to the best of my possibility. Moreover, the recording of this live stream will be preserved on our YouTube channel, and there will be a rerun on our Steam page, so rest assured that later on you'll be able to catch anything you've missed in case you have missed anything on our live stream. So, without further ado, a very brief TLDR of all of the game modes. First of all, there's the tutorial. Tutorial works, as you might expect, by teaching you about different aspects of building a vehicle, controlling a vehicle, and playing the game. I will not showcase that to you just now. The tutorial has been present in early access for some time now, since one of the patches. In fact, when talking about the patches, I might as well showcase some of the things we have done before the game actually launched. So as you can see on the screen right now, we have a number of different patches showcased for you on this infographic, and showcasing the work we've done up to this point. I'll showcase that infographic later down the line as well and talk a bit more about it, but right now I just really want to get into the nitty-gritty and start building some vehicles and causing some mayhem. However, there is one question I need to answer right now, and that is, when exactly are we leaving early access and when will you be able to play all of the features described in patch 1.1.0? And the answer to this is quite simple. This will happen at 5 PM Central European Summertime. So again, 5 PM Central European Summertime, this is when we will officially leave early access, and you will gain access to the newest patch with all the newest additions and add-ons. I, being one of the developers, am right now playing the version you'll be able to play in about 2 hours, so for now, just have a little bit more patience as I showcase the new stuff. Alright, that is enough of that, and I can now go ahead and continue talking about the game itself. We have 4 different game modes available. We have the campaign mode, which would simply launch a campaign and let you play through a bunch of story missions across 4 different maps. I have showcased that before, I might showcase that a little bit on today's live stream, just not right now. We have a creative mode, which I already showcased. It's a sandbox mode, you can do anything you want in there. We have an endless mode where you get to fight progressively tougher waves of enemies, which is my personal favorite mode since it offers quite a bit of a challenge, since there's a limit to what kind of vehicles you can create to fight the enemy vehicles. And finally, there's the battle simulator mode, which has undergone the most changes in our patch 1.1, and that is because now in Battle Simulator you can actually create your own scenarios and share them with other players via Steam Workshop. So I'll explain that more as we get to it, but in short, basically you can choose one of those 5 maps, and yes, there are 5 maps now. We have actually added an extra map for the release. But you can choose any of those maps, add a bunch of vehicles to those maps, add a bunch of buildings, give some goals to pursue for the enemy vehicles, choose one vehicle to be a player vehicle, and then you have a scenario. You can also choose targets for the player vehicle, so for instance it might have to destroy some of the enemy vehicles, and only then it wins. And then you can share that with any of your friends. So really, you have a lot of fun toys to play around with. Now, this is something that we're going to delve into in a second, but for now I did promise I'll show you some more fight. So I'll use the bare minimum of the Battle Simulator and also showcase the new map for you that we have prepared. So the story behind the new map is actually quite simple. We have listened to what the community has asked us for, and the community asked us for a map that was a little bit more flat than the other maps, that had less terrain to worry about, so less rough terrain, more areas that are just flat out open, that have, you know, where you can easily travel and build up a massive speed. So yeah, there are some bits where there's a bit of rough terrain, but for the most part it's a wide open plain, and it's a very big one. There is of course a lake here and there and some hills, but for the most part you can have a lot of fun on this map. So showcasing the most basic feature of the battle simulator mode and just showing you how epic the battles can get over here, I'll just drag a few of the vehicles I have available for me right now. As you can see, I can choose the team those vehicles belong to, and I can choose from any of the vehicles I have available. So I'll choose a red team, a blue team, and then a pirate team, and you'll see that when I spawn vehicles for individual teams, they also change color to match the teams they have been assigned to. So let's go ahead and for the pirates I'll give them a steamer, and in the upper right corner you can see the relative strength of each vehicle, and we can see that the blue team has a massive advantage while the pirates, they're a bit underhanded. So I'll give them Poseidon's Biden, and also finally I might give them like some sort of airship, nothing too big, just something for them to make use of. So maybe a Death Cloud will do. Alright, and now as you can see the pirates do have the advantage and the red team is underhanded, so I'll go ahead and use that. So let's go ahead and give the red team maybe like a Blade Racer. Why not? That's a fun looking vehicle. Give it over here. And I can also assign some behavior patterns for the AI, so I can choose that, for instance, I want this vehicle to be a ram, so it's supposed to just go ahead and ram enemy vehicles and destroy them with their mass alone, which might work quite well, whereas for other vehicles maybe it would be better to have a sniper or something. As you can see, we have changed the way this mode looks right now. So for instance, we have some things like I could designate this vehicle to be controlled by a player, and then a player would start playing as this particular vehicle. I could also choose that this a target for this vehicle. So for instance, if I pick that this vehicle must be destroyed, and then I played that as this vehicle, then my goal in this battle would be to destroy this enemy vehicle that I marked as a vehicle for destruction. It's really self-explanatory. So that's basically how it works. For the AI, I could also choose that they have a target to go to. As you can see, by pressing this little button, a bow will appear. I can then drag this bow and tell the AI that, okay, I really need you to get over here, and then the AI will do everything in its power to get to that spot. I don't need to do that for now. Let's just go ahead and see what happens when I just press start, or in my case the enter button, and the battle ensures. Now, I will need to warn you that I am currently live streaming this. So if you see any lag or anything, this is most likely due to the case of the live stream itself, because on my end we do have a stable frame rate, but unfortunately because of the live streaming devices things could get a little bit less stable, but from what I can see on my stream preview, things are working quite nicely. So as you can see, the vehicles are fighting each other, and they are slowly but surely destroying things one at a time, and it seems like this particular vehicle, the first hour, is doing the best. As you can see, it's in the middle of the battlefield. It's armor too thick for the enemies to penetrate, and it is currently just raining fire on all of the enemies. It's currently targeting the Death Cloud. It is also firing at the other vehicle. It is also a hover tank, which is a little bit cool, if you don't mind me saying so. And it seems like it's trying to bully Mr. 5, which, even though there's only half of it remaining, it still tries to run away from the dreadful first hour. As I can see, the trees are distractible on this map, as it is the case with all of our maps. And first hour, it was doing so well, but now as it's built some more distance between its enemies and itself, it is having some problems. As you can see, its main gun has overheated a little bit. Oh, it's firing again. But some guns can overheat, and yes, there are a lot of mechanics like that in this game. For instance, you can have engines overload, you can have them overheat and catch on fire. Different modules of each individual vehicle can also catch on fire. They can be flooded, which also affects them negatively in case you, of course, go into a lake. All of this is simulated as perfectly as possible. Individual module... Ooh! yeah, I do have to say, this first hour vehicle, it's doing really great. And I'm quite proud of myself because this is a vehicle I created when the game entered early access, if I recall things correctly. So, yeah, even though it's an older creation of mine, it's still doing quite well and destroying everything else it's fighting. So, that's rather impressive. I'm really happy about this design. Nevertheless, as you can see, the battle is nearing its completion. It's only the red team versus the pirates, and the pirates are losing, but the Poseidon's Bident still has a fairly heavy gun, even though its armor has been ruptured, so it is a little bit damaged. Of course, if you are just tuning in... Oh, there are bombs flying. I'm sorry, I have to see this. Are they going to finish off the first hour? They will cut it in half. So yeah, the Death Cloud, it is a bomber, so it was able to partially destroy the first hour. It seems like it can no longer control the direction in which it is floating. It does have a few propellers still operational, but it seems like it is having a tough time controlling itself now that it has been so severely damaged. And it's still under fire too. I don't think it is going to win, but it certainly did put a valiant effort. And it's still firing. It's still fighting, even though there's almost nothing left of this vehicle. All the same goals for this Poseidon's Bident, I have to admit. It is barely holding together. You can see that there's just one block holding everything in place. It's an amphibious vehicle, so you can also see the elements that are meant to allow it to propel when it is submerged into water. Nevertheless, it's still operational, it's still firing, and this is an epic battle for the ages. But I'm sure you're not just here to watch the AI duke it out. You probably also would like to see a player take over and just have a little bit of fun. So, oh, never mind, there we go, the first hour has been destroyed. So I can now go back to setup. I could also reset everything and start this battle anew, but instead of doing that, I'm going to put a spin on it. And I'm going to go ahead and take control over this first hour vehicle. And now I will be the one who is controlling it, and it will be my task to make sure that this time around we actually win. So, as you can see, I can zoom in on the enemy vehicles, I can also fly away. I do have the ability to boost. As you can see, I have now activated my booster, and I'm trying to get away of the line of fire. It is not the most maneuverable vehicle, that's because it is a hovercraft, but I'm putting some distance between me and the rest of the enemies, and now that I'm behind the enemy, I was able to launch a critical shot at the enemy Poseidon's Bident. Oh, but it seems like the enemy vehicle is doing 180 on me, and it actually managed to do the same thing to me that I did against it. And it really doesn't like me, and it's going to ram me. Oof. That was a big hit for my vehicle. I'm still operational, however, and I can continue firing. Maybe I can hit the Death Cloud up in the sky and avoid the fate that the first hour suffered before, when it was so critically damaged by the bombs. But it seems like the Mr. 5 over there is doing quite well when fighting against the Death Cloud, so I'll just try to focus on Mr. 5 that up to this point has been working quite well. I could target at its vehicles, I mean turrets, and try to disable it in such way, but it seems like this unfortunately is no longer an option because I'm running out of ammo and my vehicle capacity is also, yeah, almost non-existent now. I can only imagine that most of my engines have been destroyed by now. I can barely operate my vehicle, and yeah, it's getting really tough to return fire. As you can see, the reload times now on my turrets, visible to the right of my crosshair, are now over 10 seconds after firing, and I can no longer propel myself forward, so at the very least it's very, very difficult. So it seems like this is the end of this particular attempt, but I tried my best, you know? I tried my best, and that is what counts after all. Sorry, I had to drink a little bit of tea. But so far you have seen me battling it out against other vehicles, and you have seen our amazing physics engine in work. Now how about we change things around a little bit, and instead I show you a little bit more about the endless mode, and again showcase the new map we have created called the Valley. Volley would be something I unleash from my guns, not quite the same thing. Also, let me quickly check. I'll need to open the menu, if I can see the chat, because it seems like I'm having some problem actually seeing the chat menu. Well, this is a technical issue related to streaming, so if you are sending me any messages, and I'm not reading them out loud. My apologies, it seems like there's some issue I have with the chat system, but I do hope that I'll be able to see and comment on everything you post to me, so it should be alright. Now, as you can see, I have launched the Endless mode. In this mode, like I mentioned already, you get to fight against progressively tougher waves of enemies. Now, when it comes to those enemies, of course, it might not always be so easy to defeat them, so you need a proper vehicle to do that. You could, in theory, load a vehicle you have created, but this might be a bit difficult because in Endless mode there is a limit to how many parts you can use when creating your base vehicle. And also this gives me a chance to talk a little bit about creating vehicles in the first place. So I'll show you exactly how to create a vehicle really quickly so that you will not have to ask me that question in the future, so that it will be all crystal clear for you, because I know a lot of you are really big fans of vehicle creation, and trust me, so am I. For now I will clear this vehicle and start working with my basics of the basics. So this is my command module. This is how the creation of the greatest war machine starts, with this one little module. If your command module is destroyed, your vehicle is destroyed, no matter how functional it otherwise would be. This is the most crucial component that you have to protect by all means necessary. How I do this is usually I try to create a little bit of a separation between the command module and all of the other modules. So to make my vehicle construction easier, I'll enable a mirror mode and hide the options panel, and then I'll go ahead and start adding some framework to my vehicle. So as you can see, I can quite easily add a lot of frames to make my vehicle as big and as wide as I want. Then I can expand it a little bit as well. So for instance, I can quickly create a framework for what looks like a big weird looking car. But that's okay, this is only the start point of creating a great vehicle. Next up, we need to think about what every vehicle needs. Typically speaking, when you enter the build mode, you can quickly realize this by just checking every different category that you have available. So for instance, right here we've got engines. Obviously you need engines to power your propellers and to move around, to basically give power to your vehicle. Engines need fuel. You need fuel, obviously, for the engines to operate properly. Engines could use some cooling. You don't necessarily have to cool your engines if you don't mind your vehicle catching on fire, that is, which might be not a very good fun for you. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and start placing things though. So I'll add things to my bar over here on the side, and I'll start adding the things that I need the most. So I'll add a steam engine, although, you know what, we're playing Dieselpunk Wars, so I'll instead add a small diesel engine, and then I'll add a liquid storage fuel for that, because, I mean, it only makes sense, right? I don't need to worry about cooling for now, but I do need to worry about crew. Basically, your vehicles also need to be crewed to be operational. And also you need ammo in order to actually fire any of the missiles and guns that you actually have. So the important thing to remember about ammo is the fact that it tends to explode when the enemy hits it, and the explosion can be rather massive. So you have to make sure that this is placed as far away from your command module as it is possible. So, and also it might be a good idea to keep ammo modules far away from each other. So in this case, I'll keep them over here. This should be a decent amount of ammo, but yeah, I like to have a lot of ammo. So by separating them this much from my command module, I'm not too afraid of losing them all. So it should be alright for the most part. Now, what else do I need? Well, like I mentioned, I will need some diesel engines. So I will add 2 diesel engines at the front, and then I'll add 3 diesel engines at the back. So the reason behind this is basically I want to have a bit of redundancy. If the enemy destroys the rear half of my vehicle, I'll still have engines at the front that will allow me to continue operating. Next up, I need to have crew room. So crew, well, even if they do catch on fire, they're not very flammable, at least not as flammable as fuel would be, so I have no problem putting them close to my command block. Alright, so far so good. What's next? Well, next I'm going to have to Let's have a quick look-see. And well, I have all the basic modules, and as you can see, the game tells me that I need a fuel storage, so I did forget about something, and the game has reminded me of that. Where do I put a fuel storage? Maybe in the middle over here. That is not going to provide me with a lot of fuel, so I'll add a bit more fuel at the front. Now this does mean that the front of my vehicle is a bit flammable, but it's still not nearly as bad as losing your ammo, so I don't need to protect fuel as much as I'm protecting my ammo. And you know what, let's have a bit more fuel, just to be redundant. As you can see, I have 240 fuel out of 125 required, so I'm well overstocked for now. Now, of course, this is all cool, fun and dandy, but I need to be able to move around, so this is where the propellers will come into play. I start with having access to a few different wheel types. I'll use dirt wheel and tenable dirt wheel, because they're quite good at traversing difficult terrain, and I'll add a few more frames, or in fact, you know what? I'll add cubes, regular cubes, to give space for my fuel, not for my fuel, but for my wheels. So I'll add 2 wheels in the back and 2 turnable wheels at the front. Now this is important, you need to have turnable wheels, otherwise, well, you will not be able to turn, and this could be a little bit awkward for you. So I do recommend making sure that you have those available. Alright, as you can see, I'm almost over budget now, so I'll probably need to delete something, because you still need one very important thing, actually 2 of them. One is armor and the other are guns. So let's start by adding guns, shall we? When it comes to guns, I'll add them at a second toolbar I have available, and I'll probably want to have a mortar and maybe some sort of higher turret near the back of my vehicle, so like this. And as you can see now, I am over budget. The budget is important because as you progress in the endless mode, you unlock more paths and your budget also increases. For now, I'm over budget, so I'll need to get rid of something in order to actually be able to fuel this vehicle. So I'll get rid of some of my crew stations. I don't need that many. As you can see, I'm now within the building limit, but I can get rid of some more crew stations, and I still have more crew than I require. I could also get rid of some fuel, and I will do that just to have more room available to build my vehicle. Alright, now my vehicle doesn't look quite as cool, but it is functional, and that is what is important. It is, however, very bare bones. It has no armor of any type, so let's make sure it is at least a little bit protected. I'll go ahead and add a few hull blocks to my selection hotbar, just so that I have easy access to them and so that I can quickly assign them if I need to do that, so like this. And moreover, you can also pick the kind of material you want to use for your blocks. Color as well, but color is less important, I suppose. But alright, let's actually use color. I'll use the red color for... Actually, you know what? No, let's use the blue color for my armor, and then I'm going to go ahead and pick a different type of material. So by default use iron, but I'm going to use steel. Now steel is going to increase the cost of my modules a little bit, but it is going to be a bit more resilient, as you can see. Of course, I could also modify that. I could instead say that, you know what, I want hard steel instead, and go with that. And that looks a little bit more menacing, but again, it costs even more of my budget. And this could be a bit of a hard sell for you sometimes. Maybe I would like to go for a brass module. Brass is unusual, it has completely different stats to other blocks, but hey, maybe that is the way to go. Let's go for brass, but brass to me feels like something that should be maybe not this orange. Let's go for bronze color-ish. That's more like what I imagine brass to look like. So let's go for that, and let's make my vehicle a little bit more aerodynamic, because yes, in this game it is important to think about things such as air drag and making sure that your vehicle is aerodynamic, because this game actually does take into account such things as air drag. And of course, having those kind of sloped surfaces also helps you protect against enemy missiles, because keep in mind, this game does take into account such things as, for instance, the angle that the enemy missiles or projectiles hit you at. So let's go ahead and... Ooh, I'm now over the building limit again. That is a bit problematic. I'll figure something out though. I'm sure I'll have a good enough way of dealing with that small issue. I am still over limit, and I actually need one more block. That is a very important block, and that is a spotting module. So basically when you go to detection, you can see that there is a view block. There are more unlockable as you progress in the endless mode, but for now this is the only one available. So I'm still over limit. How can I fix that? Do I need this many engines? I do not. Let's get rid of one of them, and now I am within the building limit, and I still can put some more blocks to protect my more vulnerable parts. So by pressing Q, I can rotate my parts in different axes, and I'll go ahead and do that to protect my very important ammo modules. And by doing so, I am again over capacity, so I'll need to get rid of something else if I want to have this many modules. Or you know what? I'll just protect them from those kind of shots. This vehicle is rather bad, but maybe it will function well enough in the endless environment. Well, let's go ahead and give it a try. It is very much so a prototype, and I don't expect it to perform very well. Also, of course, you can decorate your vehicle in any way you want. You can easily paint the armor of your vehicle. For example, I could change the color of the middle section if I so desired. I could also add a decal to my vehicle. So let's go for something like, I don't know, I really like this decal for some reason. So let's go ahead and add that in the middle right over there. Wonderful. And now I have a vehicle. Does it work? Yes, it can move around. It is actually quite quick. Now, I do not actually have any cooling modules, so I need to watch out not to build up too much heat, but I think I should do quite well in the challenges that are to come. So let us proceed with the first enemy wave. So the first wave is very easy, and it's just one vehicle, and this vehicle is going to be no match for mine, I expect. Right now it's just firing at the front of my vehicle, where I actually do have ammo, and I do have more firepower than the enemy vehicle, so I should be able to do quite well against it. As you can see, it is trying to run away, but it is actually going to fail at that. Oh, never mind, it actually pulled out some steep maneuver, but oh, I could ram and maybe put it on the side. No, I can't. I'm ramming it quite well. Oh, never mind, I was able to knock it aside. Wonderful. And now I can finish it off with one swift strike. And just like that, the enemy has been destroyed. And as you can see, I have unlocked new components. So I've got more turrets, my vehicle has been destroyed, and my budget has also been increased. So what can I do now? Well, first of all, I'll move to where I was before because I'm too close to the leg to my liking. So hold Shift and use the WAS and D WASD keys to move my vehicle around the battlefield back to where it was. Next, I'll let go of the Shift key and move my camera again. And now I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Add Remove option. And by the way, I didn't mention this before, but you actually can change the amount of information you can see in this game. So basically, whenever you want to see more or less information about your vehicles, you can do that just by pressing those handy buttons on the side of your toolbar. And basically you can hide the information you don't care about or see the information that is important for you. So as you can see, you can, for instance, check out what the controls are, or you can see what the colors you have available. You can also check what the center of mass of each vehicle is, as well as center of float, center of lift, and of the other things. So plenty of fun things to play around with. You can enable or disable the mirror mode. You can also choose for the mirror mode to affect removing modules, or you can not do that. You have plenty of options available to you. So, since I'm still in the endless mode, and I guess I accidentally applied the decal to the side of my vehicle, oh well, that's fine. Let's go ahead and keep improving this vehicle, shall we? So previously I wanted to protect my ammo blocks a little bit more, so let's go ahead and do that. And I'll really quickly go ahead and add a few more blocks to make sure that I don't have to worry about my my ammo being exploded. So I'm going to go ahead and add those two over here. and I'll continue going forward. As you can see, even though I picked the white color, it is not quite white. That's because right now I'm using brass for those particular blocks, which is a mistake on my part. No need to use brass for something that is nothing more than just a frame block. But what is more important is that I don't need there to be a frame block at all. Instead, I'll actually use brass and just protect the side of my vehicle as well as I possibly can. Also, what new blocks did I unlock? A long triangle, a saw vehicle, large ammo storage, round edge, so for the most part defensive things, but also some turrets and extra large tracks. This could be fun to play around with, but I don't think I need to do that just yet, so for now I'll just do that, and I think I'll change the coloring of this vehicle just a little bit to be a little bit more fitting. So I could also choose to paint not only color but also materials of my vehicle, so I'll make sure that everything is brass, but I'll color it in black. So I'll basically have a black and brass colory vehicle. And I'll do the same thing on this side as well. So this looks a little bit cooler in my opinion. Alright, so this vehicle a little bit more defensible, still not that great at surviving enemy fire, so let's go ahead and add a little bit more armor to make sure that it is a little bit stronger than it currently is. And this part, well, it looks a little bit awkward, so let's go ahead and replace it with more of those. And finally I'll add a quad triangle at the end to top us off and finish us with a few more slopes. Easy does it. Now, so far so good. And in case you're just now tuning in to our live stream, I will again reintroduce myself and basically say that this is a live stream for Dieselpunk Wars, which is going to leave early access today in a bit over an hour from now on. So at that time the game will officially be out of early access and the newest patch 1.1 is going to finally become publicly available and have a plethora of features that our fans have asked us for and that we, well, simply put, implemented to make the game as fun as possible. Also, I'm not sure why I'm not using the mirror mode. Let's go ahead and add that. Also, another thing I should point out is that I am currently, for this live stream, playing a pre-release version. So basically, if anything strange happens, there is a very big likelihood that it only happens because I'm playing a version that isn't quite the gold release version. You play a slightly different version than the one I currently have access to. But for now, I haven't seen any bugs, so it should be alright. Let's go ahead and add a bit more protection. Wow, this module is so dark, I didn't even see if I placed it right, but I did. So that's good. And it seems like this vehicle is now where I'm already, except for the middle section, and I still have a decent amount of budget to use, so I'll continue making sure that it is up to standard by implementing a bit more protection for it, just like so. Building in this game is really quite fun, and honestly it is one of my favorite things to do in Dieselpunk Wars. That and of course blowing stuff up, which I imagine for most people is what they would like to do most. Each to their own, I suppose, although I do also am a big fan of blowing stuff up. Alright, so now my vehicle is very well defended. It is probably a little bit heavier. Let's actually check how heavy it is. Can it drive steadily? Yes, it can. As you can see, it actually has no problem maneuvering, and it seems quite tanky as well. I like the way it's going, so I'm going to go ahead and save this vehicle as full release. That's how I'm going to call it, because I want to basically signify that I made this vehicle when the game was out of early access. Oops, and I accidentally... No, I don't want to save over DevCloud. I want to save over full release. And there we go. Save vehicle. And it is now saved. Excellent. So now that it is available, I'm going to go ahead and first of all take a sip of my tea real quick. And then I'm going to also make some new improvements to this vehicle. Because I still have a decent amount of budget to burn through, I'm going to go ahead and add some more turrets to my vehicle. So I'm going to add a rather dangerous looking turret at the front. So right over here I destroyed my deco. Oh well. It will be missed, but such is the way of progress. I'll add it later. It's not necessary right now. In fact, you know what? No, I wanted this part to be there, so I'll just press the undo button and I'll keep things as they are, although I do want to protect my fuel modules, so I'm going to go ahead and use the cube and get rid of the part that was there before, and now the fuel module should be better protected. So I still have a bit more budget to burn through, I suppose, but I don't necessarily need to. I think I should still be able to destroy anything that the enemy uses against me, but if I can fit another mortar, then I'll do just that, and unfortunately I do not quite have the budget for this. But if I remove one of them, then everything will be fine. Of course, I do expose the inside of my vehicle by doing so, but I can cover it up and it's fine. So now, my vehicle is quite powerful. So I'm going to go ahead and exit the build mode, and with my newly constructed vehicle, which I am really fond of actually. In fact, you know what, I'll save it again in case I'm destroyed. Save vehicle. There we go. It is now saved, and I'm going to go ahead and start the next wave. So now, as you can see, the next wave is going to be a bit more challenging with tougher enemies spawning in two angles. As I can... Did I just lose half of my vehicle immediately? Yes, I did! Yes, I did. That's because the enemy I haven't looked at just yet is really putting a number on me. So maybe I should have used a different material. I cannot even see the enemy vehicle because it's out of my detection radius. But currently I'm duking it out with this guy, so it is trying to get to the side of me so that it can fire on the parts that I have exposed. I obviously don't want this to happen, and oof, I think I destroyed its something. I don't know what I destroyed, but I definitely destroyed something. And it's about to be knocked on the side, and I don't have to worry about it all that much. I can now just fully go ahead and finish it off. So this was risky, but I still have a side of my vehicle functional and I can still move around. Now, what I could also do is repair my vehicle. Since the other enemy vehicle is not firing on me right now, I'll press the asterisk button and repair myself real quick. And then I'll go ahead and look for the vehicle that was causing me so much trouble. So where is it? Oh, it's over there. So it's hiding. And it seems like it wanted a little bit too hard to hide away from me because it went into the water and is unable to get out of it. Well, that happens sometimes, I suppose. So let's just go ahead and try to destroy it. Now, of course, it being in the water does provide it with an annoying amount of protection, mind you. It is being slowly flooded, so I expect it to be destroyed sooner or later, but for now all I can do is just happily fire at it. And while I wait to finish off this enemy vehicle and try not to fall into the water myself, I'll continue talking about this game. So basically, like I already mentioned, we entered early access about half a year ago, and since then our players had a number of different things to suggest to us. So basically different quality of life changes that we have implemented, bugs that we fixed, but also new features. So we have added since then a bunch of new modes and models, and more importantly, the players have asked a lot about, no, this is taking too long. I don't think we need to worry about destroying the vehicle. Although now I had a better fire, so I'll continue talking for now. So basically, I know that a lot of players really wanted to have access to multiplayer. Now, unfortunately, multiplayer was not feasible at this point in time, but what we have done is the second next best thing, and that is the ability to share and to create and share scenarios with other friends via Steam Workshop. And since it's taking a while for me to destroy this vehicle, I don't have enough firepower, I'll just go back to main menu to save us a little bit of time, and I'll showcase again exactly what I mean. In fact, I'll first of all show again all the things we have added since the game was launched in early access. I'll just take a sip of my tea and continue talking about the game. So as you can see, we have launched 5 patches in total since the game was officially launched in early access, and each of those patches added something new, and over the course of early access we were experimenting with Endless mode, that being the mode I was just in, which is a mode where you get to fight progressively tougher waves of enemies, and I'll definitely go back to this mode at some point during this live stream. However, that being said, this is only just one big part of everything that we've been doing, because we have also been working on other fixes and improvements, of course, just to make sure that everybody gets what they have asked for. So, for instance, we have added a block that allows you to detach bits of your vehicle or attach them back together, so a detachable block, because this is something that a lot of players have asked us for, because that could create a lot of cool vehicles, and yeah, that was added. That will be a part of the patch 1.1. Another thing is, again, a new map, and a lot of players have asked us for a new map ever since the game was released in early access. And although initially it seemed like adding a new map would be a little bit too much of a challenge, but thankfully again the players have enlightened us that there really needs to be a map where you get to experiment and have a lot of free room to just roam around, create your vehicles and see how well they fare against other vehicles. Just basically a fun sandboxy area where you get to do everything you want, and there aren't too many natural obstacles in the terrain to worry about. So, obviously, we eventually came to a conclusion that yes, a new map is absolutely necessary, and we have created that as well. And I'll showcase that to you in a second while showing some new Battle Simulator features. So I'll go back to the Valley map and I'll show you some of the things that you can do on this map. So first of all, like I said, we have modified the Battle Simulator mode. So now you could also add some fortifications, and I'll add something real quick. For instance, maybe a mini tower. I do not have that much time to add a bunch of things, but hey, I could say that maybe this hill is well protected because there is like a supply or something over here. So I'll add 2 mini towers that will protect this hill for the red team. Next, I'll add a few vehicles for the red team that will also guard this area. So maybe I'll add, let's see, what do I want to add? Maybe I'm going to go ahead and simply add a dry docked yellow submarine. It's not going to be able to swim around, so it makes no sense. So let's go ahead and remove that, because I don't know why I put it here in the first place. And instead I'll add a sea drill. Now this vehicle is a very good ramming vehicle, so I'll just add that. And I'll mark it as a vehicle that I need to destroy. In order to win a scenario I'm about to put together, I'll have to destroy this vehicle. Next up, for the red team, I'll add a few more defenders. So how about a few turtle tanks? These tanks have been since the release, and they are quite potent in their own right. And finally, I will need a player vehicle, so somebody that will be able to destroy the enemy vehicle and make sure that everything is dealt with. And I don't want this challenge to be too difficult, so I'm going to go ahead and just add one of the more powerful vehicles, the Sea Monster. I'll change its team to blue team, and I'll mark it as is controlled by player, which means that now this vehicle is going to go ahead and that whenever I start the scenario, I'll take control over this vehicle. So now, if I press enter, the vehicle is now under my control. Some of